This is somebody who, this is Ahmed in Canada. I'm going to put you live on the air now. Ahmed, last week we had Mimsy from Mimsy Vids on, who is an ex-Muslim, and we had a Muslim call and talk about some stuff. And Ahmed wanted to talk about some more stuff on that particular call and give us some interesting details on that. Ahmed, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hey, how's it going? I know you've been waiting a long time.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, so basically, I'm an ex-Muslim, ex-Ahmadi Muslim atheist, and last week the person who called was an Ahmadi Muslim, and he put forward the way Ahmadis claim they believe, their perspective on the verse of Quran which says there should be no compulsion in religion, and there's that. In turn means that people have freedom of conscience. So I wanted to kind of respond to that, if I may.
Yeah.
So basically, like in the beginning, like when I was listening to it last week, I was really frustrated and almost angry, and I called right away. And you had your lines were full, which is a good thing because 1 week gave me kind of to get my thoughts in order. And also the fact that I realized that if you had asked me 3 years ago, I would have said the same thing about this, this organization, which is, they give out these talking points, and we don't think I say we, but, as Ahmadis don't think about these things. They don't see things in a different way. So they keep repeating these things. So I wanted to kind of give my perspective on how these things are actually implemented within that organization. So basically, let me just say why they claim, if they don't believe these things, why do they claim, right? So what happens is that they are a really small minority.
So I just want to clarify for myself and also others. You're talking about a specific Muslim organization that does something. I'm not sure what exactly they do.
It's called the Ahmadi Jamaat or community.
Okay.
It's a sect of Islam. And the caller last week, he was a member of that.
Right.
So he represented. He said the true interpretation of Quran is that the verse says there's no compulsion in religion.
Yes, I remember that.
This is the true interpretation of Quran, and the Ahmadis believe that they have the true interpretation of Quran out of hundreds.
Which I really wanted Mimsy to respond to, by the way. I think she was tired from it being so late in the night. But that was one of those things where it's well, she knows better than I would, so I'm going to let her talk. But then we didn't end up responding as well because I think I disagree with that assertion as well. And I think that's...
Are you having Mimsy back at some point?
We definitely should at some point, yeah.
I feel terrible because I'm not following most of this at all. So I don't know what expertise I can bring to the...
Just a man came in and claiming he was representing a Muslim organization, and one of the things he said was that the people were free to leave the religion. Basically, they had the freedom of conscience to kind of make their own minds about this stuff. And I think Ahmed is trying to tell us that this actually isn't true, especially with
it's demonstrably not true. Right, there are definitely people in the West, perhaps, with that. However, you're not going to escape social and familial powers, but there are definitely countries and places where, keep in mind, if you when they've polled these countries, the overwhelming majority of the population believes that the just repercussion for apostasy is death. So no, you don't have freedom of conscience to leave if you want to leave.
Yeah, but the thing is, Ahmadis, who are a minority group in most of the Muslim countries, they do not believe that the punishment for apostasy should be death. So I agree with that point.
Yeah, sure.
So the reason why is that I wanted to first give a backdrop of why they say this. So basically, as they are a minority and they are declared as non-Muslim in Pakistan, and I believe in some other countries as well. So anybody who converts to Ahmadiyat is is declared as an apostate. And then if you're in Pakistan or any other country like that, you are in danger of being killed, essentially.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they say that this is not right because they are in minority. So they say this shouldn't happen. We shouldn't be killed, and people should be given the right to choose what they want. And also the fact that they say that the Muslims, actually the majority Muslims say, because Ahmadis believe in an extra prophet after Muhammad, that makes them non-Muslim. So Ahmadis say that we have the right to believe whoever, if we believe somebody else is also a prophet, we have that right, and we should be considered as Muslims. So we want to stay within the community of Islam and do and interpret the way we want to interpret Quran and the teachings of Islam the way we want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So basically, that's what their demand is. That's where the idea of no compulsion in religion comes from, and that's why it's so important for them.
Yeah,
right?
I would say gradients are necessary in far as changing cultures and changing people's minds. And so I hope they succeed, especially in those countries, because you're not going to turn an entire Muslim, significant portion of a continent. You're not going to change that entire civilization overnight. So I would, in the interest of gradients being present and transitionary states being present, I hope they succeed in making that case, but I'm very skeptical that will happen.
And even if the true quote unquote interpretation of these texts is, yes, there are no, you're free to leave and you have this choice and everything. I mean, like the real life phenomenon of people leaving time and time again has shown there's always negative repercussions. And that's with pretty much every single major religion, whether they say that you can leave or not. I mean, I don't know any major religions that don't have at least some sort of consequences for disabandoning their belief system on some kind of level, whether it's socially enforced or whether it's something that the belief tells you, like, oh, karma will still affect you whether you believe it or not, something like that. So
there's a number of polytheistic religions that don't give a shit.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, it astounds me when people do make these kinds of arguments saying, oh, no, you can leave at any time. It's whatever. Because especially if you look at like a lot of Muslim majority countries, these people are like, they can't just leave a lot of times. Either their government sometimes is out to get them, depending on where they're at, or like they have to face the social repercussions from their family and friends and all kinds of people. I mean, people don't just walk out and just leave and say, hey, this is me now. And people are like, okay, that's just not the reality we live in sometimes. And even in the United States, we still have that. Again, there's more liberal families than others that kind of accept it. But the calls that we've had tonight, if anything, have shown that this is a difficult thing, and it's not just like this. It's not as easy as people make it out to be.
Definitely,
for sure. And I find that their claim that there no compulsion in religion and apostates shouldn't be killed is kind of deceptive when it comes to their, like, when they are in majority and they're applying these rules to the people who are leading their community. Mm-hmm. Or criticizing their community. So it's completely different. For example, if somebody criticizes them, like an ex-Ahmadi, what happens is that they will issue an order which says that people have to stop socializing with them.
Yeah.
So imagine,
similar to Jehovah's Witnesses, it sounds like. Yeah. So it's literally like hey, you suck 10% less, than the other. Well done. It sounds almost like you're getting what they're trying to do is take what I imagine a popularist message to an existing religion and then get a little cult-like with it. It's like 2 steps forward, 5 steps back kind of thing.
To an extent that they issued an order saying if somebody has been kicked out of or somebody has left the community and they're critical of the community, and you go, like a member goes to an event, like a wedding or something, and they find that person is there. So the first step is to go to the host and say, kick this person out. And if that person doesn't do it, you have to leave that event. And if you don't leave that event, you will be kicked out of the community as well. So they go to that extent. And when they come to like these secular shows or any other, like especially to the West, they will say, no, there's no compulsion in religion. There's no repercussions of leaving the faith, which is absolutely not true.
Yeah.
Right. There's such a low standard and low bar too, where people are just like, hey, look, our religion doesn't murder apostates. So, and then people are like, wow, so progressive. And then you get into it and you're like, oh no, it's a nightmare here too. Very interesting. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for calling, Ahmed.
For sure. Yeah. And just from a Christian perspective, yeah, thank you again, Ahmed. I really do appreciate the call. And I hope to hear from you again soon. Yeah, just to comment on that too, even just from the Christian perspective, like there were still repercussions. Like even when I was sitting in church, it's like they talk about it every week what the repercussions are. Like it's fire and brimstone. It's like, of course there's going to be things. And like that's not even including the social ostracization, which of course no mainstream church, at least that I was ever a part of, ever said you should ostracize atheists as much as you can or say all these things about them. But it happens anyway as kind of a result because
they teach you what atheists quote unquote are. And so it's sort of like every day if you're taught by your parents that people with pink zipper backpacks secretly have a monster living in their chest that are going to come out, and a part of that would get to you. And even as an adult, you would see the pink zipper, and you would associate it with this old negative feeling. Growing up as a Mormon, it was like, listen, people who leave the church, they're miserable and they are in love with sinning. Why would I want to be friends with a person who's miserable and in love with sinning?
Or at worst, Jimmy, they're going to try to trick you. You need to watch out for them. They're going to get you to listen to that rock music, or the rap music, or whatever it is that they talk about these days. But
when number one thing atheists who are activists want to do is get a person to ask themselves, why do I believe this?
For sure.
mean, at least the good activists.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this too, Jimmy. If you tomorrow decided you're going to become a Christian again, I wonder how I would feel about that. I definitely wouldn't socially. I think if anything, there'd be a lot of people that would reach out to you. They'd be like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
They'd want to talk to you.
Calls left and right.
But I don't know if anybody is going to be like, "Okay, well, I don't know. I hate you now. Like I can't talk to you anymore." Unless you were being like really, really mean about it or something. But I don't know. I don't know if that
was like airing everybody's dirty laundry.
Yeah,
like, let me tell you what. Dan sends me nudes, and here are some observations I've made.
And they're great, damn it. They're the best you've ever got. But anyway, guys.
Not bad.